What's a fact you wish you didn't know? When a crematory starts, the largest bodies are processed for cycle 1 first, then turned to be finished. The remaining bone structure is placed in a blender and pulverized. As not all the heat has left the bricks, smaller, less fatty bodies are second, third, etc. I have 19 for tomorrow. It's gonna be a long day. I wish I didn't know about stage 4 pressure wounds, especially on the coccyx, negative pressure wounds, necrotizing fasciitis. Just from getting old, not being able to move as much as once could, and fragile skin. It's what ends up killing a lot of older people because they just never heal. An infection takes over one day. There's a farmer's maxim that says something like feed the horses before you let the chickens out, because both horses and cows are known to eat baby chicks if they're hungry enough. When the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up, the 7 crew members survived the explosion, experienced free fall up over the top of the Ark, and were killed several minutes later when they crashed into the ocean, knowing the whole time they were about to die. Then, because NASA and the county coroner had a dispute over who would perform the autopsies, their bodies were put in the back of a pickup under a top and raced back to Kennedy Space Center. Insurances won't pay for some procedures unless you are guaranteed to die without it. So if there is a chance you will be crippled or otherwise badly injured but alive, they will reject it. Had a patient told he couldn't get a heart procedure unless he collapsed, he never collapsed but had a bad heart. Insurance company said since he didn't collapse his heart wasn't that bad. His lawyer grandson said if he collapsed he will sue them. Within 2 hours they approved the procedure. How rapey, gross, necrophiliac ducks are. I wish I didn't know all the things that can go wrong with childbirth. Currently pregnant and terrified as hell. Not knowing about SIDS would be cool too. Most of what I learned earning dual history and political science degrees. We are absolutely awful every chance we get, and we usually learn everything the hard way, twice. Locked-in syndrome is terrifying. You are alive and conscious but have no way to communicate that or stop that. Up until the late 1980s, anesthesia on babies on optional. Literally everything I learned in college parasitology. The more you know about parasites, the more nope they get. Crocodiles gallop. A human with enough motivation can pull their own ear off. Approximately $218 billion of food gets thrown away each year. Over 700 deaths a day are caused by medical errors. That we have microscopic mites living in our eyebrows and eyelashes. Otters have been observed raping baby seals, sometimes killing them in the process. How common pedophiles are. That my grandfather, 53 years ago, was able to buy a brand new car outright with cash solely using his Christmas bonus. Not his wages, no saving up, just a bonus. He wasn't some executive either, he wasn't even a manager. He was a floor worker in a plastic factory in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. We will never see that level of prosperity again. I recently became an EMT and loved it. There wasn't much that could faze me. Until my grandfather died from an incredibly sudden, unexpected death that I would consider traumatic as far as medical deaths go. It was one of the first times I wish I didn't know what I know and had never been an EMT. The visualizations of what likely happened and how he would have felt in his final moments in the ER are too much. 30 of people that report missing people end up kidnapping, murdering them. An elephant's penis is prehensile. I wish that I didn't know my parents are swingers. My dad knew that my mom was abusing me, but rather than help me, he used it as blackmail to keep her from suing for more child support. I could have gone the rest of my life believing nobody knew what was going on. Something I just learned within the last 24 hours. The RCMP Royal Canadian Mounted Police slaughtered Inuit sled dogs in an effort to destroy their culture and way of life, as the Inuit depend on their dog sleds for pretty much everything. They killed upwards of 20,000 dogs over the course of 3 decades. The unemployment rate for blind people and other people with disabilities. Laika, the dog sent into space during the early days of the Soviet Union's space program, died of overheating hours into the flight, on the craft's 4th orbit. This was intentional, and her survival was never expected. It was just an experiment to measure the effects of orbital space travel on living things. Her mission was a death sentence right from the start. Think about that the next time you see that cute space dog in Guardians of the Galaxy. Considering how long the dinosaurs lived, and how much water the Earth has, it seems safe to say that every drop of water on Earth has been through a dinosaur. We could all die in an instant from a massive gamma-ray burst. And we would never see it coming. When someone is cremated, everything burns away apart from the bones. They're taken afterwards and ground down. The ashes you get is basically the person's skeleton ground into dust. The human head takes 7 full turns in order to snap off. The exact details of the James Bulger murder. I accidentally read about it when my son was about that age, and it fucked me up and disturbed me to a degree I didn't know was possible. Becoming a parent changes your perception of things. It's a quote. The smallest caskets are the heaviest. There are more people suffering under slavery conditions today than ever before. Just under 50 million people. You can force your rectum out of your body, and there's a kind of porn based around that. I don't think the actors are paid enough to have incontinence issues for the rest of their lives, but I guess that's really their call. In order to actually smell something, the nose has to actually sense the particles molecules of the substance it is smelling. This means that actual particles of what you're smelling has to go up your nose nostrils. Every steamy shit you have ever smelled means tiny parts of that shit has gone up your nose. Disgusting. Credit scores weren't introduced until 1989. The person who poses the most danger to a child is the mother's new boyfriend. The Nestle thing. I was so keen on Kit Kats until I studied about palm oil and all that exploitative labor. I was a happy, ignorant fat ass until that day. Now I'm just a fat ass. Zombie snails. Don't need to know any of that at all. One day, I'm gonna die and there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I didn't know how it feels to give chest compressions. That first compression that pops cartilage and maybe breaks something will haunt me. Feeling someone's ribs crunch under your hands is nauseating. Lobsters and crabs are the cockroaches of the sea. All clownfish are born male. When a female clownfish dies, a random clownfish will become female to serve the rest of the clownfish. That ovarian cancer is usually symptomless in the early stages, and even with symptoms, the symptoms are so vague, bloating, etc., that doctors usually just dismiss it. It's been giving me crazy anxiety ever since. The average erection holds more blood than a rabbit. When you die, your hearing is the last of the senses to go. You can hear others while you can't do a thing. I'm sure everyone has heard this one, but those 3 girls who were abducted for 10 years, chained to the wall and raped and abused every day. I think about them all the time and it breaks my heart. One of the girls' moms actually died from a broken heart brace. A psychic told her her daughter died. One of the girls had a son who she lost custody of and never saw him again. So sad. When we shout, our butthole opens and closes fast. I can't take anyone serious when they shout, since dolphins are the rapists of the seas. They rape other fish, they rape and abuse puffer fish to get high off their release too, and if a human gets too close they rape them too. They even gang rape. Dolphins are basically always horny and will look to rape at any opportunity. If you lose fingers, your insurance won't pay for reattachment if you can grip with your remaining fingers, so as long as you have your thumb you don't need all your fingers, and if you want your finger reattached you will have to pay off it out of pocket. After surgery in your abdomen, anything like a C-section or something else in that area, the surgeon usually has to move your intestines out of the way. When the surgery is done, the surgeon just shoves them back in haphazardly because your intestines will put themselves away. George Washington didn't have wooden teeth. He had dentures made from his slaves' healthy teeth. I wish I didn't know that wasps crawl into figs to fertilize them. They don't crawl back out and slowly get absorbed. Within 100 years of your death, no one on earth will have remembered you. The lifetime risk of cancer is 40-50. The existence of skin mites. Dogs lick your face in an attempt to make you vomit. It's an instinct from their wolf heritage, where young cubs are fed by adults who hunt return with food ready to regurgitate.